Welcome back. This is the introduction for Unit 3 about the growth of the American political system. This will specifically look at chapters 5 and 6 from the textbook. After the Revolutionary War is over, we begin the process of building our national political system. Take a minute right now and look at these terms. Some of them are a little bit more complex, and try to put a sentence together using 3 of those terms. All right, now share them with your neighbor. Basically, what we ended up getting out of George Washington's presidency is something that we refer to as a two-party political system. This was divided up between the Federalists, those who believed in a strong central or national government, led by Alexander Hamilton, and the Democratic Republicans, led by Thomas Jefferson, who wanted to keep the power in the state governments and allow basically the federal government to just kind of monitor their decisions. This led to some pretty severe battle lines being drawn between the political powers that were available in the late 1700s, early 1800s. And there were a lot of questions that they had to do battle over. One of the things was our national debt. We had just defeated the most powerful country in the world in a war, and we didn't have any money. We had to figure out which powerful European power, Britain or France, would become our new BFF. I mean, we weren't going to make any money if we weren't able to trade with them. And one of the big grievances that led to the Revolutionary War was that England would not allow us to trade with France, and it was an opportunity to make more money. This conflict continued as many British ships and naval ships would often attack and take as prisoner American privateers. This eventually led to a conflict that was solved by the Jay Treaty, where our foreign relations improved with Britain and France. Internally, we had an argument over the national bank. This idea of following a strict constitutional reading of the founding fathers' laws and idea of law. And then that also played out into the idea of what was implied or strict interpretation. The reality was that the Constitution was written, but as time went on, people would have a different way of kind of understanding what it was meant to be. And the national bank and creating a national bank became one of the real first arguments in how we should interpret a constitution. And ultimately, one of the major things that we're going to kind of debate is this relationship between manufacturing and agriculture. There is going to be a constant debate that is very much applied to our political system as to how much power farming versus industry should have in the role of the government. The other question that comes up is civil liberties. There is a growing distrust with the government, particularly because with the Democratic Republican societies who wanted more of the common people to be involved in that system, which meant the non-educated and the working class people, there was a feeling from many of the Federalists that questioning the government should be wrong. And this led to one of the first Alien and Sedition Acts, where we as a democratic country that should, has these Bill of Rights that protect our freedoms, said that anybody who spoke out against the government could be fined or arrested. So again, you wouldn't think that in a free democratic society we would have these questions, but they definitely were things where our freedoms were maybe questioned. So Thomas Jefferson becomes president, and he wanted to do something to simplify the presidency, take away a lot of that executive power and the Southern dominance to reign supreme and increase the states' rights in the agricultural part of our government. And an interesting situation occurred upon the leaving of John Adams as president with the Midnight Judges of 1801, which led to the Judiciary Act. Basically, John Adams tries to, keep control over a federalist government by putting all kinds of different judges in position, and it eventually led to a debate that would be played out in the Supreme Court called Marbury versus Madison, which essentially created our Supreme Court, which makes the Supreme Court the entity in our government, and personally, in my opinion, the most powerful part of our government, because ultimately now they decide if laws are constitutional. So even though Congress and the president can work together or against each other to, change or fix laws, things like the Affordable Care Act, well, eventually those things will come to the Supreme Court because somebody will sue, and that will eventually lead to a decision to say, well, is that really a legal thing to do? So this is the beginning part of Unit 3. Looking forward, we're going to start looking at the end of Chapter 6 in our last unit, looking at westward expansion, particularly paying attention to the Louisiana Purchase, and then eventually what that will mean.